Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a fascinating chapter that really demystifies the bustling, incredibly complex interactions of our natural world. We're going to track the ultimate one-way journey of energy. And it's a journey that literally dictates the rules for every single living thing on Earth. Honestly, whether you're staring at a tiny puddle in your backyard or hiking through a massive, towering forest, the rules of this energy game, they are exactly the same. Let's get into it. To make sense of this massive thermodynamic engine, we're breaking this chapter down into 5 quick parts. The stage is set, capturing the sun, nature's recycling program, energy flow in food webs, and finally, trophic levels and energy loss. Okay, part 1, the stage is set. We've got to look at the physical environment where all this energy drama actually unfolds. So, to really grasp the biology in this chapter, we have to zoom out and look at the whole picture. An ecosystem is basically a functional unit. Think of it as the ultimate marriage between the biotic, the living organisms, and the abiotic, the known living physical environment like soil, water, and sunlight. Whether it's a small, totally self-sustaining pond or a massive, sprawling desert, it is a unified system working perfectly in sync to process energy. And what's wild is just how organized this physical stage is. Nature absolutely hates chaos, so it relies on a physical structure that ecologists call stratification. Basically, it's vertical organization. Picture a forest, right? The giant trees occupy the top vertical layer or strata, hugging the direct sunlight. Then, shrubs occupy the second layer, down to herbs and grasses covering the bottom. This brilliant vertical distribution ensures different species can share the space and resources without outcompeting each other to extinction. It's like a perfectly designed apartment building for nature. All right, moving to part 2, capturing the sun. Let's talk solar energy. You know that every ecosystem absolutely needs a constant input of solar energy to keep running? Plants act like giant solar panels, capturing this energy through photosynthesis to produce organic matter. The total rate of all this production, that's our gross primary productivity, or GPP. But here's the catch. Plants are living things too. They have to burn some of that energy just to survive and respire. So if you take that gross primary productivity and subtract their personal respiration losses, you're left with net primary productivity, or NPP. And NPP is the absolutely crucial metric here. It's the actual usable biomass, the real fuel left over for the rest of the food chain to consume. To put that into perspective and give you a sense of just how powerful our biosphere is, the annual net primary productivity of the entire Earth is roughly 170 billion tons of dry weight organic matter. 170 billion tons. That is a staggering, almost unimaginable amount of solar energy successfully converted into living biological fuel every single year. But, as the chapter points out, when we split that 170 billion tons up, we see an amazing contrast. Even though our oceans cover about 70% of the Earth's surface, they only produce 55 billion tons of that organic matter. Which means, the vast majority of our biosphere's biomass, 115 billion tons of it, is actually generated on land. It's a really striking difference that just highlights how incredibly dense and productive terrestrial ecosystems are compared to the open ocean. Okay, part 3, nature's recycling program. Let's dive right into the decomposition process. Look, absolutely nothing goes to waste in nature. You've probably heard the earthworm called the farmer's friend, right? Well, there is a profound biological reason for that. Earthworms are detritivores. They're basically the essential frontline workers of an ecosystem. They spend all day breaking down dead leaves, bark, and animal remains, which ecologists call detritus, into smaller particles, while simultaneously loosening up the soil. If you trace the decomposition cycle, it's actually pretty beautiful. Follow a single leaf falling from a tree. It gets eaten by insects and earthworms, then broken down even further by fungi and bacteria. All the nutrients locked in that dead leaf are pushed right back into the organic rich soil, taken up by the tree's roots, and used to grow brand new leaves. It's a flawless, continuous, closed loop. Now, while it looks super simple on the surface, this oxygen-requiring recycling program actually happens in 5 simultaneous steps. First up, detritivores physically break things apart through fragmentation. Then, water-soluble nutrients seep deep down into the soil via leaching. From there, fungal and bacterial enzymes chemically degrade the matter. We call that catabolism. This leads right into humification, which creates a dark, incredibly nutrient-rich reservoir called humus. And finally, microbes break down that humus to release pure, inorganic nutrients back to the plants in a step called mineralization. The whole shebang happens all at once.
Moving right along to part 4, energy flow and food webs. Let's track how energy actually moves through the system.
So, energy travels down two main conduits in an ecosystem. The first is the grazing food chain, which starts with green plants, moves to herbivores, and then up to carnivores. This chain is the dominant player in aquatic ecosystems. And this is super interesting, in terrestrial ecosystems like forests and grasslands, a much larger fraction of energy actually flows through the detritus food chain. This one begins with dead organic matter and is driven entirely by decomposers like fungi and bacteria. And what's really cool is how these chains aren't isolated, they interlink. Animals from the detritus chain often end up as prey for animals in the grazing chain, creating a massive, interconnected food web.
As we map out these webs, we've got to remember that nature is totally bound by the laws of physics. Ecosystems strictly obey the laws of thermodynamics. First off, energy is never just created from scratch. The sun is the primary source. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, while nutrients recycle over and over, energy flow is strictly unidirectional. It goes one way, from the sun to the plants to the animals, and then it just dissipates into the environment as heat. Because of this constant, unending loss, ecosystems require a constant, unending supply of solar energy just to counteract the universe's natural tendency toward disorder.
Finally, part 5, trophic levels and energy loss. Let's look at the hierarchy of survival. Knowing that these natural interconnections create complex food webs rather than just simple straight lines, the chapter forces us to stop and ask, how would you classify human beings? Like, where exactly do we fit into this grand thermodynamic matrix of energy consumption? Well, organisms occupy a specific place in the food chain based on how they get their nutrition. We call this a trophic level. Producers, like our plants, are firmly locked at level 1. The herbivores that eat those plants sit at level 2 as primary consumers, and the carnivores that eat them sit at level 3. Now, because humans are omnivores, meaning we eat both plants and animals, you can mentally plot us dynamically bouncing around between these upper consumer tiers, totally depending on what we happen to be having for dinner. Okay, so the big takeaway here is this. Because energy is strictly unidirectional and constantly lost as heat during biological processes, the amount of available energy drastically drops off at each successive trophic level. It's a steep decline. The plants have the most energy, the herbivores only get a fraction of that, and the carnivores get even less. This is exactly why organisms absolutely depend on the massive volume of the lower levels to survive, and why, ultimately, all dead biomass has to fall to the decomposers to keep the physical nutrients in play. As we wrap up this explainer on the chapter, this thermodynamic reality really leaves us with a profound appreciation for just how fragile our ecosystems are. We are entirely dependent on this delicate, one-way stream of energy. So it leaves us with this pretty provocative thought to ponder. Since energy constantly dissipates as heat at every single step of the food chain, never to be reused, what would happen to the complex web of life and to us if our sun simply stopped shining? No way to recycle that energy, right? Think about that the next time you feel the sun on your face. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep exploring the amazing world around you.